Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Team Vitality's recent RLCS victory in Regional number 1 for the Spring Split. We're going to be talking about Zen's debut event for RLCS, and we're really going to be honing in on a question I've been seeing discussed all over social media since the event took place. That question is, did Zen's debut live up to the hype? While we're doing that, I've got a couple of games to show you guys in the background. This first game is Game 3 of the Grand Final. In that Grand Final, spoilers of course, Vitality took the win in Game 1, and then Liquid won 4-0 in Game 2. So this is Game 3, fresh off a Team Liquid 4-0, where they absolutely out-pressured Vitality start to finish. They played a brilliant game, and now we're going to see how Vitality respond. Now, to talk a little bit about the takes I've been seeing online, it seems like there is a pretty popular opinion going around that Zen's debut did not in fact live up to the hype, and some people are saying that it was impossible for him to live up to the hype because the hype around him was just so incredibly great that no one could live up, not even Zen could live up to that level of hype. But I'm here to argue that in fact he did, and thank you Zen for scoring a lovely little opening goal there to tie the game. I'm going to argue that his debut, at least for me, it lived up to the hype that I had, and I've been hyping up Zen a ton. I've been making a ton of videos about his upcoming debut. I've been making a ton of videos around his 1v1 ability as well. So I definitely had very high expectations for Zen going into this event. I thought he was going to look like the part, but I'll be completely honest, I didn't think Vitality were going to win in their first try. I thought maybe third place would be a likely outcome for them. He's just finding opportunities to outplay and outspeed his opponents in this game. There's a second goal in Game 3. Yeah, I didn't think Vitality were going to win their first event. So think about it this way. I had high expectations for Zen. I thought we were going to see great things for him, but I thought it would probably take a while for them to actually produce the win. Maybe Regional 2 or 3 would be more likely, but Regional 1, well, Karmi Corp and Liquid are looking so dominant at the end of last split. Probably a bit too much to ask with all the pressure that's on them. I mean, we saw what happened with version 1 in NA. They're kind of the team that are the NA equivalent of Vitality. Everybody's kind of expecting them to immediately become a top 3 team in NA and maybe win an event this split. So definitely an NA version of Vitality in many people's minds. And yeah, they completely flopped. And I've been telling you guys, don't jump the gun on judging them too harshly, because I think they were under immense pressure, and you can't base your judgment of them as a roster off just one event. Now, if a similar thing had happened with Vitality, I would have been saying the same thing, as Zen just repeats his ceiling double flip reset that he scored earlier. There's the second one in case you missed it earlier on in this game. Just simply outrageous. He's scoring absolute bangers. Goals that would be in contention for goal of the weekend in the Grand Final, and he's done it twice in one game. I mean, yeah, this is obviously one of his best games. I've picked his best games to show you, or two of my favorite games from Zen this weekend to show you. But I am going to be talking about his overall performance. So don't think that he's scoring 2 ceiling double tap flip reset shots every single game. This is the only game he did that in, but I didn't see that from anyone else this tournament. Although this was the most stacked regional, in my opinion, that we have ever seen in Rocket League history. But yeah, to just bring expectations back to where they were pre-regional, I think most people had Vitality finishing second or third. I don't think that the majority expected them to win. I wasn't seeing, an outright majority popular opinion. Vitality are going to dominate this regional. They're not going to drop a series. That was a fair, some people said it. Some people thought that Vitality were going to win, and I think that was a reasonable prediction, to be honest. I don't think it was the popular prediction. I don't think the most popular, the most likely one. But I do think it was reasonable to say that they had a good chance of winning. I think their chance of winning was decent. But yeah, they went undefeated this event. They won it. They beat Karmi Corp 4-1, and then they beat Liquid 2 times 4-2 and 4-3. That's extremely convincing. You're playing against the 2 top teams in Europe in 3 separate best of 7s, and you won all of them, as well as beating G1 and Quadrant in a very nervous, shaky first match in RLCS with this roster, which I think you can absolutely just chalk up to nerves, because as the weekend went on, they got better and better and ended up winning the whole thing. But yeah, from a results standpoint, did Zen live up to the hype? Did this Vitality roster with Zen live up to the hype? Absolutely. Before Zen joined, the last event Vitality won was at RLCS Season X. They went an entire season, and now 2/3 of this season without winning an event. So that's a whole lot of time passing without an event being won. And now Zen joins and they win first try. Obviously results-based, that is as much as you can't live up to the hype any more than that. But the reason some people are saying he didn't live up to the hype is because they didn't see enough Zen 1v3 plays, they didn't see enough 1v2 plays, they didn't see enough flip resets, they didn't see enough ceiling pinches. I don't know what people wanted to see from him. But yeah, I guess some people expected more solo plays, and they're not happy with what they got, because actually the way Zen played was as more of a third man for this team, and he gave Redosin and Alpha as much space and as much time on the ball as they wanted. Okay, let's get into a second game here, and we'll continue to discuss. That's game 3 of the series. We're going to skip to game 6, and the series score at that point is 3-2 in Liquid's favor. Vitality call timeout. Let's see what happened in the following game. So here we are again in the same series in the grand final, and in this game we're going to get to see a little bit more of what Zen was doing all weekend for this team. He was playing kind of a third man role. It was not a complete, very clear third man like you see from Falcons with Khaled, or from the former V1 roster when Torment was playing, but definitely he was the last man back more often than Redosin or Alpha, and this really, I think, brought the best out of Redosin and Alpha, who, by the way, I'm not making this video to discredit Redosin and Alpha. I think the whole Vitality roster performed incredibly well all weekend. This was the best event we've seen from Alpha, and definitely one of the best events we've seen from Redosin, who is one of the most underrated players this season. He's been unbelievable, and I don't think he's talked about enough. But Rocket League or RLCS is a 3v3 game. You have to look at what players achieved before their new third joined and what they've achieved after. Before Zen joined this team, the results for Vitality peaked at a second place at the first regional, the winter split, and were actually as bad as not qualifying for the first event of the season. That was Sizen, Redosin, and Alpha 54. Now Sizen's been switched out, obviously, for Zen, and they won their first event that they've played in. A lot of people thought Zen was going to come in and be the guy leading the attack, that he would take the ball, take the boost, and 1v3 the opponents, and then maybe his teammates would be the ones following up on him. But that's not the play style that Vitality have gone for with Zen. It seems like they actually want to have him playing at the back, and for me this makes a lot of sense. Zen is the best 1v1 player in the team. 1v1 players generally have got the best shadow defense in Rocket League, and they've got some of the best 50-50s, some of the best mechanics, and if you're looking at Redosin, Alpha, and Zen, who do you think is going to be the most reliable defender of the three? I think it's clear that it's going to be Zen, whereas Alpha is a super unpredictable player in attack. He's very, very difficult to read, very difficult to play against in attack, but his main drawback in this team and in this season has been his consistency. Not always been there. Now, you don't want an inconsistent player in defense. You want someone like Zen in defense who you can just rely on to be very, very difficult to get the ball past. And it's similar with Redosin. I think he does his best work in a second or first man role. So I want to credit Vitality for the correct strategical positioning that they've gone for. I think that their play style and their default positions that they've went for in the pitch makes perfect sense, and I think people need to realize that just because Zen isn't leading every attack and trying to chain flip resets on everyone, it doesn't mean that he's not the carry of the team in a different way. It's a 3v3 game. If one person is playing on the ball with a bunch of space and boost, it's probably because the teammates made that space and they enabled that to happen. Now, like I said, I don't want to make this video into a downplaying Alpha and Redosin at all. Like I said moments ago, the entire team were unbelievable, and they I think, performed relative to my expectations of them coming in. I thought they would start off looking a little bit like V1 have with Daniel, where the synergy would be off, they would need some time to adjust to each other, and I really expected pressure to get to them a lot more than it did. So for me, the fact that pressure doesn't seem to have got to them at all, they've won the first event undefeated, they've looked brilliant while doing it as a team. Zen is just racking up saves here, by the way. He's got some great defensive reads already. more of that to come. Yeah, that for me is why I think Zen lived up to the hype, because I never had any questions about his mechanics coming into this. The question marks for me related to Zen were not, would his 1v1 playstyle translate to threes? It was, would he be able to deal with the pressure? Would he be able to slot into a team environment in RLCS with all of the money on the line, the season points on the line, and everybody watching? And all those questions were answered. And in fact, in a way that I think is really quite fascinating to watch. He didn't force himself in on the play. How many times have we heard young mechanical players be criticized for trying to do too much, forcing themselves into positions that it just makes their teammates awkward, and maybe forces double commits in defense, forces overextensions in offense. That's not what we saw from Zen. We saw a very reserved playstyle and a very consistent playstyle that I think has Vitality looking way more unbeatable than I thought they would. Another very nice save there. Difficult position, but he gets himself out of it. We approach the closing stages of the game. Remember, Liquid are on match point here in this first series. They're looking to bracket reset and go again. One more goal for Liquid, and that is it. It's just over for the first series, and we start again with another best of 7. It's not going to happen yet. We're going into overtime, 0-0. Really, really tense here. Another thing I did want to talk about in this video, though, is statistics. So, Farah actually tweeted out a very interesting tweet. Farah's the coach for Vitality. I'm not sure if we can pull up the tweet, Mr. Editor, while I'm talking about this. But yeah, he tweeted out that if anyone's using stats, anyone's using Octane rating to decide who the carry of a tournament was, then they're mistaken. I'm paraphrasing here, but he doesn't think that that's a good indication of who did what. Now, Farah's a player who's played with stat machines in the past. He's played with Peak Chaussette, he's played with Prime Astral in the past. He knows what it's like to be the facilitator of a team, being continually underrated by the community, by analysts and by fans. So it probably, you know, resonates very closely with him when he's seeing one of his players in Zen being talked about as an underperformer in his debut event. That's a brilliant save by Team Liquid to keep this game alive for them. But yeah, I think it's a very good take by Farah. I don't think stats are everything. I think they sometimes tell part of the story, but you can't just look at that. You have to look at everything else that's happening as well. On the pitch, you know, I've always, you know, liked to do that, using, you know, some stats to have a, you know, a baseline for where to begin, and then looking at the actual gameplay and seeing what's happening off the ball, what's happening before a goal happens. Because goal participation, for example, if somebody passes the ball to another, there are 3 players on the pitch. If player A passes to player B, who passes to player C, and player C scores, player A, who started that play, doesn't get any points. They don't get an assist, they don't get a goal, they don't get anything for their contribution, even though they are just as much of a part of that play as the other 2 were. Now, with Zen being third man for this team, he started a lot of plays for them over the weekend. I've shown you just 2 games here, but I encourage you, if you are going to try and make a judgment call on how you know, impressive Zen was, you need to look at how every goal happened for this team. Where, you know, where did it start from? A lot of their goals and a lot of their plays started off with Zen taking multiple players out of the game, absorbing pressure, and just really making life very easy for Alpha and Radosin. And then that is when we saw Alpha playing at his best with, you know, all of the confidence that he had playing with Zen behind him, and all of the, you know, confidence that he had in his own mechanics. Now that he's back at his best level after being, I think, in a pretty long-term slump compared to the level we knew he could be at. And same for Radosin. I mean, this team just looked fully confident. They gelled together so well. And I think, you know, saying that Zen didn't live up to the hype, it does, I think, a severe injustice to how well he played his role in this Vitality team. Such a selfless role for a player like him to take upon himself, to put his teammates in the limelight and just set themselves and set them up and set the team up for success by playing third man in his debut regional. Something that I'm sure they went in with practice. Having, you know, I don't think that they would have practiced Zen being the first man in scrims and then come into RLCS and they're like, all right, now go third. Surely this is, I would absolutely think this is something that they planned, something that they practiced, something that worked well, and that they've replicated perfectly in their first regional with an unbelievable amount of pressure to deliver results on their young shoulders. So for me, well done to them. I think the hype so far is absolutely justified, and I think that, you know, young mechanical players currently and in the future, really need to be looking at what Zen is doing for this team and realizing that it's not just about stealing the show by scoring a highlight goal. It's not just about trying to look as good and get the best stats and be the main man in the team. Although in this grand final, Zen actually did have the best stats. That's beside the point. It's not about that. It's about getting the win by whatever means necessary. That's exactly what Vitality did. And I can't wait to see what's next for them. Will the hype continue to be lived up to? Because for me, I think so far it has. That's just my opinion. You could disagree. If you do disagree, be sure to tell me why in the comments. I think it's a very interesting topic, and I do want to see a continued discussion on this. I'm not at all trying to end the discussion with my input here, trying to be the be all and end all. Far from it. I think there's definitely a discussion to be had here. This is a very unique debut. We've seen plenty other amazing debuts from players like Seiko, where he led the attack on the ball, and he was 1v2ing, 1v3ing a lot. This is a different kind of carry that Zen has applied. It wasn't a difficult carry by any means. Alpha and Radosin, very, very light and easy to carry, if even they needed any carrying. I don't think they did. But yeah, different kind of performance is probably a better word from Zen than we're used to seeing from the young Meki players who come into the league and have a lot more of an impact on the ball and less so in the subtle ways often go under-recognized and underappreciated. But that's all we got time for today. If you like this kind of video, be sure to let me know, and maybe we can take another closer look at Zen or other players and see what they're doing, and try and highlight the little things that they're doing that make their teammates' lives easier on the pitch. And again, congratulations to Vitality on an incredible first event. Exceeded my expectations, and I think sky's the limit for this team. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Hopefully you have a great rest of your day or night, wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.